She's the democratically elected leader of her nation, but stepping beyond her garden wall would risk arrest and possibly the lives of her followers. 9 months after she was freed from 6 years house arrest, the crowds still come to hear Aung San Suu Kyi. But the hopes raised by her release, that years of outright military rule were drawing to an end, are now fading away.
Well, I used to go by bus or sometimes with my own car. Yeah. So wherever I go, that guy with the motorcycle always follow me. So this is quite usual now. I just ignore him.
And you're being followed all the time?
Pardon?
You're being followed all the time?
Yeah. And then this guy will watch my place while the other one follow me. Now he's preparing with the headgear and follow me.
This man has a faultless barometer to measure Burma's political climate. When he's being followed, the military government, or SLORC as they call themselves, are angry. And for the past few months, he's been followed day and night.
I think their intention is to intimidate me. That's why they are following me openly.
It's a pattern of intimidation that he's seen before. The last time SLORC paid him so much attention, he was jailed for 5 years. U Win Thein is one of Suu Kyi's key advisors in the NLD, the National League for Democracy. After months of polite but futile requests for dialogue with SLORC, the NLD are now taking a harder line, openly criticising the regime. And the men on the bikes are back. In a way, SLORC still keeps Suu Kyi a prisoner in her own home, but it's also become her fortress, the NLD's headquarters, and something of a sanctuary for the families of her supporters.
It's part of what we are doing because we believe that politics is about people. Yeah. So politics is not just a matter of elections and political manifestos and so on. It's all about people. So we think that social work is very much a part of our NLD's duties.
But politics is also about gaining power, and right now that goal seems a distant one. In response to her more strident attacks, SLORC has sentenced dozens of her supporters on trivial and trumped-up charges in a new campaign of fear to keep people away from the NLD.
Even though the people are frightened, and they are frightened, we don't deny that, of helpless people, people who have nothing on their side, are frightened of people with guns. That is only natural. But the more lawless the government becomes, the more supportive the people become, because they all know that they cannot be secure under a lawless system.
It's been a good year for the generals. They've ended almost all ethnic insurgencies, they've been invited to join ASEAN, and their plans for a new constitution which will formalise their power are proceeding unhindered. They don't need a new constitution to maintain control in Burma. They've got more than enough guns for that. But they hope it will bring them international legitimacy, which will help ensure their long-term survival.
How many countries have you known where an army, bristling with arms, had assumed power and in the end had to give way because the people were against it? The classic example is that of Latin America, where practically at one time the whole continent, the whole of the South American continent, was ruled by army dictators. and army dictators who pursued more or less the same kind of policies as SLORC pursued, which is to say an open economy and a very close political system. It just does not go together.
According to the new military museum in Rangoon, the open economy and closed political system is working very nicely. 4 floors are dedicated to the achievements of SLORC, and pride of place is given to those exhibits which celebrate the level of foreign investment. Foreign investment may be profitable for SLORC, but it also has made them vulnerable to Suu Kyi, who's now calling for a boycott on investment in Burma.
Certainly, it is very much against the interests of the people of Burma, because most of the investments coming in are coming in through the same privileged group, which is getting richer and richer and more intent on clinging to power. So I think, in fact, foreign investors now are working for their own destruction.
While development is proceeding, particularly in hotels, Suu Kyi's call is being heard especially in the West. It's this more than anything else she's done that sparked the current crackdown. But whatever their actions, the generals know there will always be business people prepared to court them. Australian Ray Eaton has just written a paper adopted by the US Chambers of Commerce in the Asia-Pacific. He's urging Washington to drop its condemnation of Burma and start promoting trade.
Well, Evan, I think what one has to recognise is that contrary to all these sensationalist headlines, the government in Myanmar is sincerely committed to trying to develop the country and take care of its people.
But doesn't that foreign investment prop up and legitimise a government of questionable legitimacy?
Well, this has often come up in business debates, and I think this applies in almost every developing country when foreign investors move in, that the initial benefits almost always go to, let's call it, an elite group. If the country opens up, then a lot of the problems of today will disappear, because, as I said, I'm very impressed with those senior officials I've met in the government here.
This man's also met a number of government officials and was less impressed. We can't broadcast what he says because an informer told SLORC that he had spoken to us, an offence serious enough in itself without them knowing what he says. Like thousands of others, he was jailed for his political beliefs, which according to the latest UN report is still a widespread practice under the SLORC regime, as is torture, rape and other human rights abuses. And these guys behind you, do you ever talk to them?
No.
Just ignore them?
I just go and act as if they don't exist. As a politically conscious person, I must stand against this kind of behavior or kind of people. At the moment, SLORC is trying to cut our movement, each and every level of the lower echelon. They are trying to cut all the branches and let the trunk isolated low. So the leadership and Aung San Suu Kyi and the top people are trying to change the situation. If the SLORC try to cut the branches, they must also cut the trunk. And we must draw fire to the center, not the outside circle of NLD.
Public meetings are banned, so Suu Kyi stays just inside the law by staying just inside her gate. But her words are now strong enough to get both Suu Kyi and her audience jailed. Across the road, intelligence officers record what she says and who's listening. But the people risk it to hear her shout what they would normally whisper. Your own officials are saying that now there might be an attempt to actually draw some of this fire to the leadership itself and actually take everything back to step one.
But everybody who's involved in the democracy movement knows that he or she is in danger of imprisonment at any time. So that for us is nothing unusual, nothing to be particularly frightened of.
So you're prepared to provoke, if you like, that sort of response?
We don't provoke for the sake of provocation. What we feel is that we have a duty as the leaders of the political party to protect our supporters and our followers, and we are simply carrying out our responsibilities. We are not deliberately provoking anybody. And if, because we are carrying out our responsibilities, they consider it a provocation, that just shows that their minds are not working very well.
At the assumption of state power in the late 1988, the economy was extremely in a bad shape. Consequently, the government has no choice but to take urgent reform measures to arrest...
Urgent measures that are now starting to attract foreign business. The economy's far from perfect or even perfectly run, but they're selling a message that international capital likes to hear. Obviously, your message to investors is that Myanmar is now politically stable?
Yes, of course.
How can you guarantee that?
Pardon?
How can you guarantee that now?
Well, you can walk on the street anytime you like. You can have there's no demonstrations, there's no riots, there's peace and tranquility in the country. That's a guarantee of the press coverage outside is very bad. You know that. But I also see it's changing. It's changing. It's changing in the sense that on the political front, they are quite critical, but the business sector cannot be controlled.
Essentially, SLORC is banking on business not controlled by political ethics, and it's currently scrambling to put deals in place. If enough investment can be attracted fast enough, it will make Suu Kyi's calls for a boycott on Burma futile. Do people still think about Suu Kyi in the opposition, or is that no longer a factor in an assessment by international investors?
I think, yeah, some do. But I think the people here, they've all read the newspapers before they came here and they've taken that into consideration.
Right, so, but the fact is that business is going on.
Yeah, there is a lot of business, a lot of investment, and a lot of Asian countries are very supportive of Myanmar.
Of course, it's not surprising to us that a lot of business people are not concerned about the welfare of the people of Burma, because a lot of them are simply out to make profits. We're old enough, we're mature enough to understand that such people do exist in this world. But I think they will find that it's not to their advantage.
Comments like this outrage SLORC, and when SLORC is angry, this man acts. Powerful intelligence chief, Lieutenant General Kin Yunt. He may be able to ignore her domestic influence, but internationally she is having an impact. Investment is coming into Burma, but Suu Kyi's comments are keeping many of the world's major corporations and international lending bodies away from the country. Suu Kyi's accusation that much of Burma's development is being built on the backs of coward people and merely props up a cruel regime hits SLORC where it hurts, and they're unlikely to tolerate it for long.
Good morning.
Nice to meet you, Sue. You're overseeing a lot of development here. Could I ask you what you think of Suu Kyi's call for a ban on this investment and trade?
So, you may discuss with right now. Yeah.
But obviously not good for the country, her call for that ban. And have you ruled out talks with her, sir?
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. If the order comes to arrest Suu Kyi, it will come from Kin Yunt. But for now, there are easier targets.
Uncle James Nichols was arrested, but we do not know why he was arrested. And he was nearly 70 and he was not in good health.
When Thein has just learnt of the arrest of one of Suu Kyi's personal financial supporters and an old family friend, James Nichols, or Uncle Leo, as she's called him since she was a child.
What we can guess is that he was arrested due to the main fact that he is the supporter of Aung San Suu Kyi, financially, spiritually. He is a father figure.
The pretext for one of Suu Kyi's financial backers being brought to this jail is because he's got an unauthorised fax line. In the past few weeks, another 30 people have been given maximum jail terms for trivial offences because they're connected to the opposition. Nichols is facing years in jail for his fax offence.
Please don't this moving, my dearest friend.
While SLORC may be unwilling to risk a new round of condemnation by arresting Suu Kyi, they have no hesitation in striking out at people close to her. As the conflict with SLORC enters a new phase, Suu Kyi carries the knowledge that it isn't just her safety she's risking, but the lives of all those around her.
In my lifetime, in our lifetime, we'll see the change and we'll rebuild.
And you're prepared to force them to put you and others back in prison to do that?
Yeah. It's when they arrested me or Aung San Suu Kyi, it's a great welcome.
Why?
Because it means that our activities are effective, harming them. If they felt that we are not harming them anymore, they will neglect us. We will try to force them to arrest us again.
It's just a visit to the market, but in a country of such extreme repression, it's a radical moment. It's the first time Suu Kyi has gone into the city without SLORC's knowledge or permission. Although she makes no speeches, for the first time she's reaching out to people beyond those brave enough to come to her gate. And it's this the generals fear most of all. Do you think this shows, this sort of visit?
Well, you can make your own conclusions. Draw your own conclusions.
Will you be doing this more often from now on?
If I need to.
Yeah. And she probably will have to do more of this if she's to play any role in the future of Burma.